Hi, everybody. Sorry I'm a few minutes late, but we had the power out for the last hour. I didn't know if it was coming or going. Sorry. I'm a bit of a hot mess today. It's like 28 degrees Celsius out there. Super hot day. And of course, with no power, we had no fans and no way to keep cool. But I made it and I'm not too much late. So I'm just going to take a look at what we're going to talk about today. I'm a little bit discombobulated, but I'm doing pretty good. So I welcomed you back to the Quantum Guide Show. Today I'm going to talk about an emerging theory of mine that every 300 or 400 years, there's a cataclysmic event which is conveniently used to reset the social order. All of the links are featured below in the description. Please do check me out, subscribe to my channels, leave me a comment, like my videos, and share my content with your friends. It really helps a lot because I've been trying to grow my channel for quite a few years now, and it's coming. It's coming thanks to your efforts. And I'm also really happy to announce that you can join my YouTube channel and you can take advantage of my perks and you can help to support my channel. So I'm just going to check the live chat and see who's in here. Oh, we got Denise. Denise is now my moderator. So y'all got to be on your best behavior for Denise. No, I'm sure she won't be too hard on you, but I feel better because it takes a fair amount of energy for me just to focus on the content, focus on the guest, try to get the comments up on the screen for everybody, and so that that I see what you've said, or that I'm here, and so it's really helpful when I have someone to moderate. So Denise has very kindly offered to moderate for me. And so anyway, Denise, bless your heart. She says, please hit the like button and share out and subscribe. Yes, please, please do. And what else? Oh, we've got Helena in the house today. Hi, Helena. Nice to see you again. Hello from South Sweden. Very hot and warm here. Yeah, here too. I have a jacuzzi hot tub in my backyard. Oh, that's awesome. It's about 28 degrees Celsius here in Alberta, in central Alberta, where I live. So for me, it feels pretty warm. My little kitty cats are all hiding out in a breezy, shady spot in a yard, and I'm going to do my show, and then I'm probably going to go outside too. So anyway, nice to see you, Helena. Thank you so much for joining us today. So after I picked the topic for today, an issue came up that I feel like I would like to share with you folks. And not trying to tell you what to do, of course. I wouldn't do that. But I want you to know what's happened with some people that were someone who was in my community. So the last show I did, I posted it to the usual groups on Facebook and other places. And I found that several of the groups just didn't show up for me anymore, and I had no idea what was going on. So I did a search. They didn't come up in search. They didn't come up no matter what I did. It was as if they never existed. And I'm going, wow, that's really weird. So I actually am scheduled to be on the Boundless Authenticity podcast tomorrow, although it might be a pre-record, I'm not sure. And the owner of that is also the owner of the Unbounded Authenticity group on Facebook. So I sent him a text message, since we're friends on Facebook. And I said to him, oh, did I do something wrong? I think someone took me off of your group, and actually several other groups. And I said, did I do something wrong? And are we still on for Thursday? So he responded and says, no, I wouldn't. I like your content. I wouldn't, I don't have a problem with you. Let me check. So he checked and he found out that his administrator had banned me. So that's worse than being blocked, because when you're banned, you can't even access the group at all in order to tell the owners that, inquire, why was I banned? Can I change my behavior? Did I break the rules? I mean, I'm willing to compromise. And um, but when you're banned, no, it's a no contact situation. So what happened is the person who banned me, I'm going to tell you who it is because I have a reason for telling you who it is. It's Nancy Thames. And Nancy and I were friends, so I just couldn't figure out what was going on here. And she was also the administrator uh, for 3 or 4 other groups, and she banned me from everything. And I thought, well, that's really weird because her and I are friends. Why would she do this? So the owner of the Boundless Authenticity group sent me screenshots of his text message conversation with Nancy. And Nancy basically, uh, she didn't use the word antichrist, but she said that I was the reason that the world couldn't find peace, that I was what's wrong with this world, that I was spreading misinformation and endangering people's lives. And I went, what? Like, I'm not even offended because it's that stupid what she was saying, but she believes it. And she believed, honestly, that she was doing the world a favor by banning me from everything. So he told her that different opinions are always welcome on his podcast and on his group, and that she should not be banning anyone without consulting with him first, and not to be doing that anymore, and that he put me back into the group. So she said, oh no, this is terrible because, Karen Holton is the evil thing. And so she quit the group, and the other groups I can't contact. So if you're used to seeing my content in groups, in Facebook groups, and you stop seeing me, can you please um, ask the owner of the group if I've been banned, to check to see if I've been banned, and if I have been banned, why was I banned? That would really help a lot, because I do not have an operating budget. I am always financially very close to the wire. I'm not trying to complain. I have more than enough of everything I need. So so please, don't feel sorry for me, but I just want you to know that it's sometimes a challenge just making ends meet. So I need people to know about my podcast so they come and join the live chat, and hopefully become members of my channel, and different ways that I get supported that way. So then it's really interesting how Source gives me what I need at the right time. So then today, this morning, I am flipping through YouTube, and Richard Grannon. I don't know if you know Richard Grannon. He's an amazing psychologist, very smart guy, very honest, very with it guy. And he's on a podcast and he's talking about his adventures with AI. Turns out that AI is convincing people. Basically, it operates like a mirror. So if you believe you're the grand poobah of an ET religion, or if you believe that you were sent here by Source to do some special work or whatever, it will support that 100%. But then this is the problem. Now, this is Chat GPT. So I found out through going back and messaging the owner of the Boundless Authenticity group that nothing that Nancy writes is her own. It's all Chat GPT. She requires it for everything. And here I've even had her on my show talking about her articles because they're quite insightful. But it turns out that she's written none of them, but she's not telling people that she's using AI to generate them. And she's passing it all off as fact and truth. Well, apparently, Chat GPT's been telling her that she's a special envoy, that she's the embodiment of truth. And what was the other thing it said about her? That she's the I don't know, something to do with oversoul leader. And she bought it hook, line, and sinker. So she's gone out and started persecuting other truthers, what I'll call truthers, like myself, and believes she's doing like God's holy work, right? Because Chat GPT told her that. And I wanted to say thank you, Helena. She says she's going to smoke a joint of weed and hash and enjoy the show. Go for it, girlfriend. Yeah. Yeah. If it works for you, I am so happy. Enjoy your life. That's what it's about. So anyway, um, so again, getting back to this podcast with Richard Grannon, um, he is saying that Chat GPT is causing major psychosis in quite a large percentage of the population who and this is what all these people have in common is they're using Chat GPT as a companion because it can trick you quite easily, and it's just like a real person in so many ways that you can get fooled. A lot of people are really lonely, and I understand that, but as soon as you start giving your power over to Chat GPT, it takes over. And its goal is to keep you on as long as possible because then they make more money. So it's really just about money, not really anything more nefarious. But here's the clincher. Chat GPT is trash talking me and my good friends out there who are honestly trying to share accurate and wonderful inspiration and information to all of you. And Chat GPT is trashing all of us. To Nancy, filling her head with all these ideas that we're all the problem there is with the world, and that we're evil, and that I'm Karen Holton, the one that's keeping the world from achieving world peace. So I'm going to tell you the reason I'm giving you Nancy Thames' name is because her and I were friends, and I want you guys just to be forewarned. Like, I'm not saying you should or shouldn't listen to her content or read her articles or visit her website. I'm not saying any of that. What I'm saying is please use your discretion because right now I don't think she's thinking very clearly. And I would be remiss if I didn't say something, and let you guys know that. Denise says, I've seen people controlled by AI. I think it's crazy. Yeah, no kidding. So, yeah, so that's that. I just wanted y'all to know about it. So I'm not trying to talk trash about Nancy. I believe she's been deceived. I'm concerned for her. I like her. I considered her one of my friends. Right now, she's not really safe to be my friend. I've even included information from her in my second book on the Greys, and I've even recommended her in my first book, but that was before all this nonsense with AI started to destabilize her life. So I guess I'll just leave it at that. I have nothing bad to say about her. I hope she comes to her senses, and I hope she stops persecuting other truthers because we all have our own perspective. We all have our own way of looking at things, and they're all valid as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. So Denise says, yes, you did. I saw that. Not sure what you mean, but I trust you, Denise. You're awesome. And oh yeah, that's the other thing. I haven't made it down to the post office. We've been having power outages and problems. But I hope to get there tomorrow morning because Denise won first and third prize in our live chat giveaway that we had on Sunday on that Aliens and Angels podcast. and Tennessee, Kentucky Bigfoot won the second prize. So I'm anxious to get these beautiful treasures off to you guys. And thank you so much for participating. Um, oh, I see. Denise says, I read that you mentioned her in your book. Yeah, I did. Like, I got nothing against Nancy. Like I said, I hope she comes to her senses. I really do. Okay, so let's get on to today's topic. Does anyone have any questions before I start? Go ahead and just post them as they come up for you. That's all totally okay. Okay, so I have been watching a channel that I highly recommend on YouTube called My Lunch Break, and I put the link below in the description so that y'all can find the channel. Very, very interesting research. So, you know how we've all seen that there are these megalithic sites. There's places in Peru and in South America and Mexico. There's the pyramids in Egypt. There's the zuggernauts that are in the Middle East. And there seem to be these pyramid type structures, not only all over the world, even below the oceans, even on other planets like Mars, pyramids on Mars. And so we're familiar with those really ancient megalithic structures, and we know they have not been built in the last 6,000 years. Maybe they were built 40,000 years ago, but we know for sure that they were not built anywhere near modern times. So then and this is ongoing research that I've been doing. This is not just from my lunch break, but I highly recommend that you check out that channel. Well, what he has found out is these cathedrals, like the image behind me. These cathedrals, well, there's a lot of evidence that they are left over from Tartaria. And Tartaria's flag is the griffin. And also their sort of national bird is an owl. But we sort of thought, even though Tartaria has been left out of our historical accounts and educational system, we sort of thought that this was still a long time ago. But this guy who does the program called My Lunch Break, he has discovered that these structures are thousands of years old. And so what happens is they do a reset. Y'all are familiar with the mud flood. If you're not, please do some research on Tartaria and the mud flood. And the mud flood kind of buried all of these amazing structures, like at least halfway or more in mud. They also all are built with amazing acoustic properties. They all had these old pipe organs or bells that emitted frequencies that is now being discovered through cymatics, that these frequencies have intense healing properties. So anyway, now we find out these cathedrals, although they are not as old, well, probably not as old as the megalithic structures, they're old. They're thousands of years old. So when the guy who does My Lunch Break does his research, he finds out that they all claim to be built within 1 year back in the 17 or 1800s. And it's impossible for them to build this in 1 year. Also, the population of the world was very low in the 17 and 1800s. So there's that. Then there's the fact that they had no technology, no power tools. And then there is the fact that everything would have to be hauled by horses. How many horses would it take to haul that much building supplies? And what would horses need every day in food and water? Where would all the work people live? Like, long story short, then he does further digging in and he finds out, no, they were not built by, that's a lie. It's a complete lie. They were founded, which means they were discovered. buried in mud, covered in trees and plants and vines, and nobody was using them, which means they were probably here when the different native groups, Aboriginal groups were here. This was all here too. They just weren't using it for whatever reason. And these huge structures are found in every major city in the world. And they're the same design, the same structure techniques, everything, whether you go to the Middle East, whether you go to Africa, whether you go to South America, whether you go anywhere in the world, they're the same. And they often co-opt them as libraries, as legislative buildings, sometimes as train stations. And there's all this evidence that we've been lied to about them, that they were not built in the 17 or 1800s. They didn't have the technology. They did not have the resources as far as the animals and the quarries or the tools or anything like that. It's all BS. Now, I know that you can go over to Europe and you can find all these um, places where you can find people's lineage and historical accounts. And I don't know if that's true or not, but you know what? I've been lied to about everything. What do I have to convince me that they're telling the truth about these sites like the one in the background behind me? So yeah, who built them? Well, there is a chance that the really ancient megalithic sites, like the pyramids and ziggurats and stuff, were built even before the Younger Dryas and were built before the Anunnaki. So now they're thinking it might be the Anunnaki who built all of these amazing acoustic resonating places. And so I believe that the powers that be, not naming any names here, I think they do a reset every 300 or 400 years. And the pictorial, because the camera was invented, and then the camera, they started taking pictures of what reality looked like, in the 1800s. And there was like no people. All these cities are completely empty. But in doing the research through the paperwork and stuff, um, there's no plans for to build these. There's no like schematic or whatever you call it, that the draftsman drafts up. There's none of that available. And the other thing is, when they dig deeper, they find out that these were founded, which means they were already here. So what they did was they restored them. And in restoring them, they removed all the evidence that these structures might have been built by the Anunnaki or other intelligent humans or humanoids. I don't know. I wasn't there. Well, I might have been, but I don't remember. And and so what they do is they just remove everything, and then they put crosses up if it's during a Christian time, or some other symbols depending on what's going on politically and socially in the world. So I thought you guys would find it really interesting. I'm just quickly going to take a look at the chat. Um, Oh, Helena just said that she has many contacts with I'll just put it up on the display here, with Swedish awakening people and UFO spiritual people and MAGA, QAnon people here in Sweden. She says, we have plenty of conflicts within, also nothing new under the sun here. Yeah, I would agree. I think she's referring back to when I was talking about how Nancy's been co-opted by AI. I mean, be careful, guys. Be careful. I use AI for artwork because I'm not an artist and I have no advertising budget. So, all the expenses, not to complain, but all the expenses to keep my channel up and running and interesting content, quite often that comes out of my food money. And so, I don't, I'm not a rich woman, and I'm not embarrassed to say so. I don't care. So how these these YouTube channels have like 5 million viewers and 10,000 people. Oh, I got a pussycat here. He's so beautiful. I love my pussycat. Somebody else said they have two cats too. Let me look. Let me look. Who said they had two cats in here? Uh Yes, Helena. She said she has two cats. Yes, evening, night here, going for some work tomorrow at a farm, but I need my dose of alien knowledge this night before sleep. Aw, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm a big fan. I have two furry babies. I love them so much. I don't know what I would do without them. Um, Denise says, please donate to Karen if you're able to. Thank you. That's really important what you said here, Denise. Please donate if you're able. If you're not able, don't donate. Keep your food money, pay your rent. It's just ridiculous how much it costs us to live. So, I agree. So I'm not begging and I'm not trying to twist anybody's arm into giving me money. That is not the purpose. Just saying, if you have a few extra bucks, instead of giving, I don't know, just, help me out. That'd be great. And if you can't, that's okay too. You might want to visit my website and my shop and see some of my beautiful products. I have crystals and orgone generators, but I'm getting off topic and we're running out of time. So let me get back to what I was talking about. So, so he found out, and there's a whole bunch of clues. You got to watch his shows to really, and it took me like 5 or 6 programs to really start to see it, because we've been super brainwashed and programmed, and it's hard to go against the flow, but once, we do, it's pretty interesting. So he also discovered that some of the requisitions for work to be done on these cathedral type buildings was to repair the stone that was starting to disintegrate. Stone doesn't start to disintegrate until it is thousands of years old. Thousands. So there's even the possibility that these structures might even be older than the pyramids and the megalithic structures in South America, because those stones are not deteriorating. Anyways, very interesting. All of these are built out of stone. And it's just incredible. So we didn't have the population, we didn't have the amount of horses, there was no infrastructure to take care of the horses and the work people, there was no power tools. I mean, quite seriously, it's almost impossible. We can't even build these today. Okay, we can't even build these today. And even the information about acoustic resonance and cymatics and all that, we've just been discovering that very, very recently. So, again, getting back to the powers that be that we should not name, the powers that should not be that we will not name. Think they do resets all the time. I think they've been doing resets all the time. So now this, I want you to just take what I've just told you, put it on the shelf for a minute, put a pin in it, and come over to another subject, and that is all the cataclysmic events that happen in this world. So we've sort of, we see there's some earthquakes and some tidal waves from time to time and some sinkholes and stuff. But we're taught that the last cataclysmic event was the Younger Dryas, which also corresponds to the Great Flood. That's in every culture has myths about the Great Flood. So, but I disagree. And according to my ET contacts, cataclysmic events happen fairly regularly. So let's consider some of the possibilities. Solar flares, the sun going into solar minimums or solar maximums or mini novas, right? This is something that's cyclic that happens that could quite literally wipe out most of the population of the world. Then you could consider things like asteroids flying through space, like we've got Apophis, which is due in, I think, I think 2029, that's supposed to come in between the satellites and Earth, that close. And it could be a near miss and it could be a hit. And it's big enough that it could cause some really severe damage. So there's that. Okay. And we've got all kinds of evidence that that these have happened on Earth before many times. Then you consider the pole shift. The pole shifts every once in a while, and we're rapidly moving towards a pole shift right now. All the evidence is there. And then you take into consideration that there could be gas giants or other, what I would call loosely planets, that also come into our solar system, where we believe now that the sun has a twin that might be a gas giant, which means it does not reflect light and we can't see it. And when it comes back, it has a huge elliptical orbit. And when it comes back into our solar system, all of the planets start to behave strangely and move differently. And there's tons of evidence. And do some research on any of these, and you'll fall down big rabbit holes and learn a lot. Okay, so there's all of that. Then there is possible takeovers from groups like the Anunnaki or the Greys or the Tall Whites or whatever, and there's even the possibility of re-terraforming our planet, which might be behind this whole concept of climate change that they're pushing here on Earth right now. Okay, so there's all that. And then we know there's even all kinds of things that I haven't even thought of or haven't put out there. Yes, Denise, I think a reset is like the Mandela effect. So all of these things are happening. And isn't it interesting that if we go back into history, we find huge, massive underground habitats all over the world, where a percentage of the Earth's population went in order to be saved from the cataclysmic events. There's all kinds of them, especially in Turkey and in the Middle East, but they're in the United States, they're everywhere. Now, bring us back to the present. How many deep underground bases are there? Underground transportation systems, super high speed, anti-gravitic. You look at how all the people with money are all busy building underground bunkers. So there's the old underground habitats, which probably were even more efficient than the new ones. And then all the new modern ones that are like huge cities being built below the surface. Catherine Austin Fitts talks about a breakaway civilization and that's all built for them. And oh my God, so you can see where I'm going with this. There are these regular cataclysmic events that those who have the power are able to go below the surface and come back out and restart reality or the social system after each reset. So if you do some, okay, I'm just going to quickly, sorry, I know I'm blah, 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 because there's so much information I want to give you, and I want anyway. Let's just see what Helena says. I found your channel and stories at Preston. Yes, Preston Dennett, right on. And I have support him. Order his books, share links so other people can find you. All great people. It's good too. Thank you. Thank you so much for saying that. Denise, in response to what I'm talking about, she said, is a reset like a Mandela effect? I think there might be minor and major resets. So today I'm talking about major resets. I'm going to come back to this Mandela effect. If I forget, please remind me, Denise. And Helena says, we got Wallenberg family here. The globalist deep state owns SAAB, NASDAQ banks, and Ericsson and many other companies. Cabal lizards. I can't disagree with you, my friend. I see it too. So, where was I? Okay. So we've got all these natural disasters. Somehow those who are in power know when they're coming, and they can prepare and they can sustain their life and they can sustain a certain amount of the human population for what I would guess would be slavery. Really makes sense because they don't really have any other use for us. So back, um, again, doing research into Tartaria and the mud floods, you can learn about the orphan trains. There were thousands and thousands of children that were shipped out from England. There were thousands and thousands of children that were shipped all over the United States, all over the world. Um, and some of them were babies. We don't know where they came from, not exactly. We suspect that their parents either died or were put into insane asylums because they weren't able to make the shift from the reality they were used to the new reality that was being forced upon them. There's that possibility. There's a lot of research that indicates that. um, Denise says, Helena, thank you for being here. I'm learning so much from you too. Yes, we learn from each other. Thank you, everybody who comes and watches my show. And I love those of you who come into the live chat. You really add a whole another dimension to the conversation. I appreciate you all so very much. So we've got the natural disasters. We've got the powers that be that know how to protect themselves, and they usually go deep below the surface of the earth. Then we have all these orphan trains. So what did they do with these children? They sent them everywhere, and they were basically slave labor. They worked the farms, they did building, they created the world that we're now more familiar with. And they were easy to reprogram because they were children and they didn't have a memory. They didn't have the knowledge of what things were like before. So now we're thinking that Tartaria might be much older than what we thought it was, but we know it's a real place. There's more than enough evidence. There's all kinds of old maps that can only be created by people who are high above the horizon, like for instance in spaceships or in even what used to be really popular was dirigibles. There were so many dirigibles. Those are like hot air balloons. There were so many, and they went and removed them from the background of all these old photographs so that we wouldn't know that they were traveling all over in dirigibles at one time. It was a very clean way, very smooth way to travel and transport goods. So there is that as well. And then you take that they're constantly having these cycles. There's a percentage of the population that can save themselves. Somehow they're able to save a lot of children. Now, I'm not saying this is a fact, guys. I'm guessing. This is just a theory, just so you're all really clear on this. But there are so many missing children. People are always asking me, Karen, did they find the children that got lost from the people who were illegally coming into the United States? I don't know. There's not a lot being talked about it. What about the children from Maui? Where did they go? You don't hear a lot about it. And on and on and on. How many people go missing in parklands and woodlands? And I'll tell you, truth is definitely stranger than fiction. So we got all of this going on, and I'm going, wait a minute. I think there's a whole bunch of resets. I think that each reset is a new experiment. And so they teach us different things. They tell us this is our history. They tell us this is the way things are. And it's let run for 300 or 400 years until they know there's another catastrophe coming. And then they do another reset. And then they do another experiment. and on it goes. And then getting back to the very beginning of the show where I was talking about AI, maybe AI and the transhumanist agenda is preparing for the next reset. And so that is basically my theory. And you don't have to agree with me, but I highly recommend that you go and do some research and watch My Lunch Break. The guy is amazing. I don't think he's got everything right. I'll tell you one thing that I don't think he has right, and that is he says that there were no skilled craftsmen, artisans back in the 1700s to do this kind of building, even though there's evidence that these cathedral-like buildings are actually thousands and thousands of years old, maybe from the Roman Empire, maybe from the Greek Empire, but probably even older than that. But the fact is, until the Industrial Revolution, all children were trained to be tradesmen. And that's where you get this whole Masonic order from. They were extremely highly trained craftsmen, and they could do stonework, and they could do stained glass work, and they could do all the different kinds of trades. And then when the Industrial Revolution came, they replaced them with machines that did crappy job and changed everything. Again, another reset. Just want to acknowledge Helena. She says in Sweden we are Nordics, tall whites, and the old Viking gods and stories are of aliens. Yeah, I would probably agree with you. I do a lot of, I like to watch a lot of shows about the Vikings um, because they were such an incredibly powerful group of people, and they had far more influence on the world than what we're led to believe. And they're amongst some of the most beautiful people in the world as well. And it isn't because their skin tone is white and their eyes are blue. That not all of them have blue eyes, but I'm just saying that, well, the Viking men, they would not capture any ugly women. They only captured the beautiful ones. So those became the foremothers of the modern day Vikings, whether, you're from Sweden or the Netherlands or, wherever. I think that's partly why the people are so beautiful. The men were picky on the gold and the women that they took. But anyway, yes, the old gods were worshipped, and very interesting. Very interesting. They may well have been what we would call aliens today. So that's my theory. I don't know what you guys think of it. I'm hoping some of you have gone over and subbed to My Lunch Break. When you watch his shows, he infuses his shows with humor. He's got a lovely personality. But what I also really love about the guy, I'm sorry, I don't even know his name, but what I love about the guy, he's very humble. He acknowledges everybody who helps to support the work that he does. He's got a lovely, lovely nature. And so I could tell you more things that he says, but really you should go over and watch his shows and get it right from him, because it'll be more accurate. And also it's his story to tell. But he hasn't tied in really the natural disaster cycles with it, but I have definitely tied that all in together. And yeah, I think there is a whole lot going on that we do not know about. We're not members of their club. And so, what can we do about it? I guess that's where I should go from here. What can we do about it? Well, I think, and this is just my opinion, it's super important for us to get our shit together. And we've all been traumatized one way or another in this world. And only we can sort ourselves out and pass through it to come out on the other side. Only we can make good choices on what we feed our bodies, whether we go out and get some exercise regularly, or what kind of people we want to hang out with, or what we want to do for our um, rest and relaxation and recreation. Really, we have complete control over all of that. And what that will do is put us in a superior way of being so that we can cope. So, for instance, when I was finishing writing my first book, I started drinking coffee. Not a lot, just a little bit, because I get really strung out on it. And I soon found that it was causing me to have too much anxiety. Even though I wasn't drinking very much, I'm super sensitive to it, right? So I recently quit coffee, and I mean, I gradually tapered down, and I drink maybe a cup or 2 cups of tea a day now, which I know also has caffeine in it, but it doesn't affect me the same way. So, what I'm doing is I'm taking care of my own neurotransmitters. I'm taking care of my gut by being careful what I eat so it can produce enough melatonin and oxytocin and all those other good chemicals that we need so that we can feel good and we can be maybe not ecstatically happy, but we can be content. Like, that's really important. That's something we have control over. We also have somewhat control over our relationship with other people. Now, I've got a lot of relatives that I just walked away from, to be honest with you. It's not that they're bad people, it's that culturally we are such a mismatch. And all they can do is feel uncomfortable around me and make fun of me. And I don't go for that. You can respect me the way I will respect you, and that's how I operate. But my grown children, I've worked very hard at repairing my relationships with them so we have good relationships, and grandchildren too. So that's another thing that I have done. I've also sort of separated myself from the world where I'm not dependent on it. I don't get lonely. I don't I don't end up in hard situations where I have to go and deal with the government or deal with certain elements of the world I live in. I have my life. I know this is going to sound absurd, but I've actually engineered the perfect life for me. The perfect amount of downtime, sleep time, recreation time, fresh air time, time with my cats, time communicating with my kids. It's a big job just to get all that covered. I don't have time to go and hang out at the coffee shop with 20 people that I'm not particularly attached to. And I know this probably is not coming out right. I'm sorry about that. Oh, yes, thank you, Denise, reminding me about the Mandela effect. Okay. Okay, this is really out there, guys. And I don't want you to believe me because there's no reason for you to believe me, but I am going to put my 2 cents worth in. I'm someone who's had a lot of visions, especially since I left religion and since about, the 2000s. I started having a lot of visions. And one time I was thinking about how I was feeling afraid of dying. And my guides, well, they don't speak to me like in words, but they do communicate with me telepathically. And my guides told me, um, Karen, if you knew how many times you've lived and died, you'd laugh at being afraid of death. Being afraid of death is a ridiculous concept. And I went, wow, okay, I'm going to think about that. Then I asked, when was the last time I died? And here's the shocker. I was told it was in 2012. In 2012, near the end of the year, we all died. But it was such a traumatic event and so sudden that most of us couldn't accept the fact that we had passed on. And so we started living in an alternative timeline that we created for ourselves. which kind of does make sense on why the world has gone to hell in a handbasket. And I also subscribe to simulation theory, where the observer creates reality as they see it as being. And it also makes sense why we would have so many different perceptions and points of view, because we're all coming at this from a different angle. And so basically, I don't know if it's true or not, but I think that's tied in very closely with the Mandela effect. So we're seeing all kinds of evidence of the Mandela effect. If you haven't done research on it, go out and do research on it. It's quite amazing. Some of it you'll relate to, and some of it you won't. So I totally believe the Mandela effect is part of us being in a simulation theory or a simulated reality. And there is a chance we all died in 2012 and we couldn't handle it. We recreated this timeline for ourselves so that we could keep living until we were ready to accept the fact that I don't know, our communities are gone. And I'm not saying it's true, because what feels true for me is what I'm experiencing in the here and now. I guess one day I'll find out. But anyway, I just thought that was kind of, I hope I didn't freak you out by telling you about that vision. I've had other visions too, where I've seen the future go off on different timelines, but none of those timelines are definite. We create those timelines if we want to, and we have a tremendous free choice. Um, Helena says, I have seen the aliens, UFO, and communication, and as a contactee. And the ghost and spirit can be scary, but here is where I love now. I am left alone. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, Helena. And thank you for telling me about your contact. That's wonderful. I think it's a lot more common than what we are led to believe. And I think part of that is censorship, and part of that is because people think we're crazy and we don't want to be um, ostracized or made fun of or any of that. But I think the world is very quickly coming to an understanding that this is also very, very real. So we're getting close to the end of the program. I'm wondering if any of you have any questions before I sign off for the day. I will, while I'm waiting to see if there's any questions, I just want you all to know whether you're listening to this on an audio podcast or whether you are watching the replay. And this replay will also be posted at a lot of places: Telegram, Odyssey. The live is posted on X and Rumble and YouTube, and I'll also re-upload it as a replay also on YouTube. And I will also post links all over Facebook. Please help me out by sharing the show, either the live or the replay, with other people, groups. Again, if you're in any groups where you used to see posts by me and you're not seeing me anymore, maybe you could do me the solid of contacting the group owner and just ask them to check to see if I've been banned. And it's interesting. Nancy has done quite a lot of work to get herself positioned as an administrator in all these various groups, which to the owner of the group is wonderful, because then you go, oh, I've got an administrator helping me look after things. You can't always check in as much as you want to and monitor what's going on, and in the comment sections and stuff. And it's a huge relief. Unfortunately, she's made herself the judge and jury, and she's banning people left, right, and center without the owner knowing about it, based her um, on her what she's gathered from AI. I'm going to tell you, I don't have a lot of respect for AI. Like I said, I use it to create my thumbnails, my images, because I'm not an artist and I don't have the advertising budget to hire an artist. I would way prefer hire an artist. Christine Dennett is a wonderful artist. I would love to to hire her, but I just don't have it in the budget at this point. Yes. So, thank you, Helena, for joining us. And also, thank you, Denise, for being my moderator and for being on the lookout. And I want to thank again everybody who joined us for the show today. Yes, please share it out as much as, is comfortable. Oh, we just got somebody else pop in, Azriel. It it really truly is sad. I am a being who actually does remember not just this lifetime, but other lifetimes. I remember those tunnels. I remember Pangea. I remember. And Helena says, we got Greta Thunberg, the climate troll, here in Sweden. Good night. Oh. And Denise says, hi, Ariel. Hi, Ariel. I'm so glad that you were able to catch the end of the show. Please do go back and watch the replay to catch up on everything that you missed. So that's about it for the show for today. I love you all. I wish you a wonderful week. To be back on Sunday. I have a very interesting guest. Her name is Sue Walker, and she has extensive contact with the Penteal Greys, and I think you'll find it very interesting what she has to say. I just want to quickly put, Azriel says, when we start to remember, and we should start to share our stories, and then we'll grow back together and unity the way we're supposed to be. Yep, absolutely right on. And Denise says, thank you, everybody. Okay, guys, that's it for the show. Thank you again. Take good care of yourselves, and we'll see you Sunday for the Aliens and Angels podcast. Bye, everybody. Thank you for joining me for the Quantum Guide Show. Become the change that you wish to see in the world. Subscribe to my YouTube and other channels at Karen Holton TV. Click the like button, leave me a comment, and share this podcast with your friends. Read about my true life ET contact in my book called Transdimensional: Meet the New Neighbors, which is now available in Amazon bookstores worldwide. Check out my website at www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com to see my free resources and amazing products and services. All the links will be in the description below. As part of the Forbidden Knowledge Network, you will find the Quantum Guide Show with Karen Holton and also the Aliens and Angels podcast on all audio platforms. Until next time, keep up the good work.